Welcome to Glioblastoma, aka GBM, a podcast brought to you by the Glioblastoma Research Organization, highlighting stories of GBM warriors, caregivers, medical advisors, and more. Welcome to Season 3 of our podcast, where we delve deep into the world of glioblastoma, also known as GBM. Join us as we navigate the complexities of glioblastoma with expert insights and heartfelt narratives. Please remember that the information presented in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, or prevent any disease, and you should contact your medical provider or healthcare team with any questions. Novacure is pleased to support the Glioblastoma, aka GBM podcast. Novacure strives to extend survival in some of the most aggressive forms of cancer through the development and commercialization of their innovative therapy called Tumor Treating Fields. Novacure partners with the Glioblastoma Research Organization to work together on behalf of patients and their loved ones impacted by GBM. To learn more, visit novacure.com. Doug Malko, welcome to the Glioblastoma, aka GBM podcast. I'm stoked that you flew here on multiple flights from Nebraska.
I'm super glad to be here.
And made it. Yeah. Made it safe and sound.
I did.
Thank you for coming. I'm excited for you to talk about your journey, your dad's journey with glioblastoma, and to kind of share. I know you've taken to TikTok. That's how we first connected.
Yeah.
To kind of share your grief experience. And I think that you have a very strong presence on TikTok about talking about grief. And I think it's a conversation that most people are like nervous to have and get uncomfortable with. So I'm really excited to have you here to kind of talk about that. So I'd love to hear from you, I guess, like take us back to the beginning of everything with your dad.
Oh man. All right. So May of 2022, like my dad's super big outdoors person. He was getting their yard ready for spring and he had fallen over and like lost his balance and he couldn't get back up. So he had to crawl to my mom and dad's patio, and my mom took him to the hospital. So like my dad practiced medicine. I think your dad practiced.
Yeah. What did your dad practice?
His family practice. And he did not want to go to the hospital because he thought he knew what was going on.
What did he think was going on?
He thought that he had listeria.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
They had actually just gotten back from Florida and he had went through a bunch of swamps and stuff. Like he loved to go off on his own and hike and stuff. And so he thought he had some sort of like tropical thing. And he asked one of the doctors who he worked with if he had it, and they did all the tests and no. And so it was just weird. It progressed. Where he went to the hospital. And then at the end of May, we were on vacation. My family and I were, and he said, we're going to go to the hospital. Something isn't right. And it was actually the day of my son's birthday. And my dad told me I needed to talk to you after they were done FaceTiming with my kids. And, it was from, I guess I was like end of May. And then he went from like being able to walk on his own to like having to use a cane and then a walker. And then he was pretty much bedridden until we took him to the oncologist June 8th.
So you didn't know about it being a brain tumor prior to this?
No, we had no idea. So that's why he was so confused as to like what was going on, because he practiced medicine for 34 years. Like he thought, this is just something weird. He never thought it was cancer. And so they got him into an emergency MRI. And then from then it was like, they got a biopsy scheduled, and then they found out how advanced it was and where it was located and everything like that. And so from June 8th until August 16th, when he died, it just was you could just see the slow progression of what GBM does. Mm-hmm. And my sister and I would alternate days where we would help take care of him along with my mom before he chose to go on hospice. And like we would do his medicine and talk to him and just take care of him, just like being kids, but taking care of our dad. And we were both there. I was there 2 days before he died, and my sister was there the day before. And so I think he held on as long as he could. But I mean, that's the progression.
What was the choice of it like for him deciding to go on hospice? Like, how did that conversation go? Was he like coherent and he was making that decision himself? And like, how did you and your sister feel about that?
Yeah, he was the one who decided, but he'd put it off for, I think, probably 2 or 3 weeks more than he should have. But I think it was when his oncologist, it was cool because like he'd worked with all these doctors. And so they knew him personally. And they said, you need to think about the quality of life that you have left versus quantity. That was kind of what it was, where he had my mom come into the room and he's like, I want to go on hospice. And then from there, it was just calling different hospice agencies and found one that we liked, and he loved the nurse. And my sister and I wanted him to be able to go on hospice, but it's this weird thing where we know that it's like the end is coming, and my mom needed to be his wife and not his caregiver. And like, especially in the final days, and we needed to just be his kids, and hospice allowed us to do that. I mean, it's like hospice is great, but it also sucks. And so I think both of us just knew like, okay, well, this is the beginning of the end. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Are you the oldest child?
Yep.
What was that like for you? I mean, because I'm an only child, and I feel like as an elder child, that there's a certain like level of responsibility to kind of like take care of your family. So like, what was that like for you?
Oh gosh, that was hard. I mean, I tried to be as level-headed as I could through it all. And I mean, that's not easy when there's differing, and our family is really, really close, but like when there's differing personalities and everyone is just stressed to the max, it's important to be able to be like, no, just mom, go to Target. My sister and I, like, we got this, just get out of the house kind of thing. So yeah, I think there was this weird level of responsibility I had to keep advocating for him. Because it's weird. Like once he went on hospice, then we didn't see his oncologist or radiologist again. And it was just like this
transition.
Yeah. Yeah. Like each piece of this journey would come to an end, and then another one would begin.
Yeah. What was that like for you? I mean, I know what it was like for my dad when he went through his glioblastoma diagnosis, but like, I feel like I constantly talk to people that have lost their parent or someone that's like going through it. But like, how has big grief been for you? Which I know is like a super loaded question.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we could go with where it is now. I think I'm in
or maybe like actually backtrack to when he first passed away.
Oh, that was like the darkest moments I've ever had in my life. And
you had kids at that time or not yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, and 6-year-old. And so they're super close with my dad. And the grief after losing him, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to parent. I didn't know how to be myself. I didn't know how to do anything. And I feel like I was just going through the day. And I mean, there were times where it's I shared it on TikTok. I don't even know how long ago it was, but there was one day where I was just like changing the sheets on one of my kids' beds, and I blew up for the stupidest reason. I don't even know what it was. And my wife was like, what's going on? And, you know, it's one of those moments I'm definitely not proud of, but I said, like, I want to go to sleep and I never want to wake up. It's too much. It's too painful to be here and to go on. And it took probably 3-4 months to get out of like that hole, I think.
What do you feel like helped you get out of that? Or like, what did you do during that time to maybe try to keep yourself like as level-headed as you could be?
I focused as much as I could on my kids and my wife, and doing things that I know my dad would have wanted. Like in October, a month and a half after he died, we went to our favorite place in Colorado and essentially just like ran away from everything. And were the kids nuts? Yeah, they were. But it was like, it was good to get away because like the mountains were healing for him. I love the mountains. I love being outside and hiking. And so trying to like pay homage to him in like different ways, whether it be going on a trip, or I started filling in my arm with tattoos because he loved tattoos. And so I just tried to.
Can you walk us through the tattoos? Are they like related to your dad? Like
Yeah, they are. They are. Okay.
What's the tattoo tour?
All right. So the tattoo tour, I just got this one actually. Yeah, so it's a skull with zinnias, red oak leaf, and then snapdragons, which were his favorite plants.
Okay.
And I love the skull. So that's why for that one. And then the mountains, because they're super important to me. And then the latitude, longitude is where I was born. My favorite place to go with my family in Colorado. And then
where in Colorado?
It's called Frisco.
Okay.
It's outside of Denver. It's really close to Breckenridge.
I used to live in Colorado.
Okay.
For like a hot sec.
I love Colorado and I would love to live there.
Okay.
And then the last one is where I stayed with my dad in 2019 for a music festival. It's Rico, Colorado.
Okay.
It's this tiny, tiny little town. And so I know that I wanted those on there. And then the snake isn't really related to my dad, but my middle son loves snakes. And then the pyramid is like the strongest shape.
Okay.
And so there's 3 pyramids for my 3 kids. And I have my kids writing and their birthdays.
Oh, that's cool.
And then like how they wrote dad. And then I have my dad's writing up here. Says, love you, Dad.
Oh.
So I'm actually going back at the end of April just to fill it all in.
Okay. What are you going to fill it in with?
Pretty much just like some more snakes and skulls and some of the flowers and leaves and stuff that she did.
And you never had any tattoos before that?
I have one on my chest and I have one on my back.
Okay.
But I've never done full sleeve.
It's cool.
Thank you.
I'm like terrified of needles, but like respect.
The lady who I go to, she has The Office playing. And so I just like took deep breaths as she was.
Okay.
The inside of my bicep was very painful, but.
Yeah. I like wanted to get a tattoo in honor of my dad, but I'm like, everyone's different. I was like, Dad, love you wherever you are. I'm going to honor you in my thoughts.
Right.
I'm scared of needles.
No,
I'm going to leave it at that.
It's okay. Cause normally like I hate shots.
Yeah.
Like it's not my thing, but I did this.
But it's a cool like memory for sure.
Yeah, it is.
How do you feel like your kids have been dealing with everything?
My kids have very differing personalities.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest is extremely analytical and black and white. And so it's just kind of like how he wants to talk about my dad is like, tell me a story about grandpa. And it's just like, these are the facts. This is what it is. My middle is super sensitive. So he has like, we call it like a marshmallow heart, where he's just a very sensitive kid. And so he really doesn't like to talk about my dad because I think that he knows it makes him so sad. And
how does that make you feel? Is that hard?
It's not, honestly, because my dad's pictures are everywhere and their books, like my parents said, they always get my kids books. And so his writing is in it and stuff like that. And he's gotten not better, but he's gotten to the point where he'll talk about him more and he doesn't get as upset. And then my daughter, she's still figuring out all of her emotions just as she's growing up, but she will be the one who says it the most. Like, I miss grandpa. I miss that he called me pumpkin. And she talks about all these things that she did with him. Yeah. And so hearing those things makes me so happy that like he's still alive in their thoughts. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we never shy away from talking about my dad. And so that like, they know it's a safe place.
Yeah.
And they know that it's okay, and they can feel whatever it is that they want or need to feel.
Yeah. Speaking about grief and like a safe place, safe place. You took to TikTok to kind of talking about grief. What inspired that?
I needed somewhere to talk. I needed to get my thoughts out, and I like writing, but I also am able to I feel like I'm able to express my words better when I'm speaking. Like if I have a prompt or something that I know that I'm going to be talking about, I'm able to like say it concisely. And so I just started posting on TikTok about grief and what I was feeling, and then talking about glioblastoma and what that was like. And it just completely blew up. I never, going into it, you never think like, oh, people are going to resonate with what I have to say. And I was very, very wrong.
How did that make you feel with like everyone like kind of resonating with what you were talking about on TikTok?
So validating because I think I have probably like 50 unread DMs in TikTok and the majority of them are just like, you don't need to respond, but thank you for what you're doing, because it's either like it's them centered around my videos about grief or centered around glioblastoma. And so like, it's like a double space for people to land, I suppose you could say. And I mean, I feel so validated by it, and I feel empowered that people are not as afraid to talk about grief or to talk about these taboo things.
Yeah.
So I think it's like slowly turning the page.
Which videos of yours do you think resonated most with people, and what kind of is a common topic that you're seeing that a lot of people are able to relate to?
The ones that jump out are what I didn't know about cancer going into it.
So let's hear about it. For anyone that hasn't seen your videos, what did you not know about cancer?
I didn't know about the radiology appointments. I didn't know about chemotherapy pills. I didn't know about how fast cancer can take someone and just deteriorate their body. I didn't know like the mood changes and just like, I just didn't know about all of it. That was one of them. The other ones are more centered around hospice. And it's just how hospice is it's not something to be scared of. It is supposed to help. And people have resonated so much with those because I don't know, people have talked about like how hospice saved their family, or that hospice was the one who was able to give the answers. And those are the ones that really have stuck out. I'm trying to think of the ones that are like, that have my top plate, or that have gone really ultra viral. And one of them was just about grief and just the analogies with grief, where grief comes in waves. We've heard that one all the time. Or grief is a ball in a box, and over time the box gets bigger. The grief ball stays the same, and sometimes it'll hit the sides of the walls of the box. That grief is like glitter. It's always there. You can't ever get all of it taken care of. So, I mean, those are the ones that really I'm proud of, and that I think resonate with a lot of people. And I think also that they see, I think it's fair to say that not a lot of guys talk about grief or emotions and things like that. And so when people see my channel talking about these things, like, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to talk about these things, then I think that it honestly kind of resonates more. And that's not to like toot my own horn, but it's just like, if people see it and they see what I'm saying, then I don't know. I feel like sometimes they can take it a little bit more seriously. Like, if this guy's talking about it, it's okay to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Which I think you know what I'm trying to say. But in my head, it's like, does that sound conceited? And I don't think it
No, not
doesn't.
at all.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay.
What would you say if there was like a guy maybe in your position that is, you know, has a young family and is going through the process of like losing a parent or losing a loved one? What maybe like words of confidence or advice would you give them to be able to understand that like grief is okay and it's normal to go through these feelings and to talk about certain stuff?
Honestly, just I've had those messages before from dads who have kids and they're losing their mom or their dad. And the thing that I tell them is whether you feel it or not, you are stronger than what you think. Like you are having to parent and you are having to watch your parents slip away in front of you and you're doing your fucking best. And that is so important to know and remember. It's okay if your emotions get the better of you because it's going to happen. Those are the things that I have tried to say if people reach out.
Do you feel like this security and confidence that you have in being able to talk about grief, was that something that your dad kind of instilled in you? Or do you feel like this was just like you had to just step up and like kind of do with it? Like, have you always been,
that's a great question.
Like in tune with yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
To answer your question, yes. I've always kind of been in tune with myself. I've always gone to like the beat of my own drum kind of thing. And I used to do food content where I did recipes and I did food photography and I loved that. And my dad was super supportive of that. I just know that I needed to get it out. I needed to get it out for myself. And then, you know, if one person sees it, then I've made a difference. And I think having that mentality has been very helpful too, that I think in social media, like creating content, it's all about the views and things like that. And then with this stuff, with grief and cancer, it's if one person sees it, it already makes a difference.
Is there something that you feel like in regards to your family's journey with glioblastoma that you feel like is really important to share with anyone? Maybe anything like highlights that have kind of stood out to you that you're like, I wish I would have known this, or what, you know, this would have helped me times 1,000 when I was going through that.
If you are not feeling like yourself, go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's something off that isn't normal, don't put it off, just go. And if you still feel like you're not getting the right answers, keep pushing for the answer that you think is there, because I think in our guts, we know what we're trying to get at. And I don't know, just like continuing to push for the answer. Like, I think it's tough because I feel like if dad would have listened to my mom at the beginning, obviously GBM was going to do what it did, but maybe we would have had a little bit longer with him.
That's so weird you say that, because literally my parents as well, like my dad, September of 2017, I take him to get an MRI the day before I leave to Spain. And then the MRI comes back like a couple of days later. My parents didn't tell me from like September to January. So my mom was like the only person that like knew about his diagnosis. And the entire time she's like, go see a doctor. Like you obviously have a thing in your head. Like right. You need to go see a brain surgeon. And then he's like, no, like it's okay. And like put it off. Like he put off surgery from early September to end of January.
Oh my goodness.
And so literally, I mean, even his surgeon, he was a total dick. Whatever.
There always is one.
There's always one. And it's like crazy like that. There's so many incredible doctors and researchers that like through the organization we fund now. And I'm like, I feel like if my dad were able just to go with any of those, he might have had a better chance. Just it's so aggravating. But like literally he went like 5 months without doing anything. My mom the entire time was like, honey, like you have to go to the doctor. Like he wouldn't listen to her. And it's like, men, listen to your wives. Like,
I wish my dad would have listened to my mom, because there was one day she was supposed to come up. It was around my birthday. And she was supposed to come up and go out to lunch and we were going to go shopping together. And she was late. And I was so frustrated with her. Like, what in the world? Like, it's not rare, but I don't see her as much as I would like. And she was late, like very late. And she's like, there's something, when she got there, she's like, there's something going on with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and I don't know what it is, but something is not right. And that was weird. And like, it was so weird from that point.
Yeah.
From that point on, because like she, similar to your mom, like she kind of held it in until we actually had the diagnosis. And I don't know if you remember where you were, like when your mom or your parents told you, but like, I'll always remember that.
Oh, mine was, where were you?
I was in my parents' driveway with my sister. It was super hot outside. My mom had just gotten back from the hospital. My dad was still there, recovering from the biopsy. And I remember my mom grabbed both of our hands. My mom is super short. Like she's like 5'3".
And you're tall. Like, I did not expect you to be, you walked in, I was like, hello. And I'm tall, but I was like, okay.
Yeah. My sister's 5'10", 5'11". And so my mom's just this tiny little woman, and she held both our hands. And I remember vividly what my sister was wearing, what I was wearing, what my mom was wearing. And she said, the cancer is treatable. It's not curable. Mm-hmm. And you know, my sister was like, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. And it just like, she kept saying that. And, you know, I think I just like walked away and I had my hands on my head and just started like sobbing, like walking around my parents' yard. They were on like 2 or 3 acres. And yeah, it just is those weird moments that just like stick out with you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that people need to know too, is like, there's going to be moments that are never, ever going to leave you. Mm-hmm. As much as you try to forget them or, you know, move forward or things like that, they're always going to be there.
Yeah. Like for me, I was living in Madrid and it was a Sunday. I remember in particular, cause like we did like, there was this one spot in Madrid, I think it's called like JJ's Bagels, that does like $1 bagels on Sunday and like $1 mimosas. And so like, obviously as someone that's like 21, like,
that's the best.
It's a good spot to go to, you know, it's like, or like, sorry, €1, but anyway, same thing. And then we go to this like little cafe called Bon Bon. Like I can never step foot into that cafe again. Not that like the cafe did anything to me. It was a super cute cafe in like the middle of the city, like 2 buildings down from where I was living at the time. My mom texts me and she's like, can you talk? I'm like, I don't ever text me like, can you talk? And I like, you know, like she'll call me or like, she'll text me like, hi. Like, it's not like a, can you talk? It's like a breakup text kind of thing. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit. So I like go home and I was like, maybe had like a mimosa or 2. So like, obviously, you know, I'm like in the vibes. We're having a good Sunday. Yeah. I had just gotten like cute little chocolate truffles at the little Bon Bon place. And I go home and I was like, your dad has brain cancer. I was like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? So like, I feel like I went back to Madrid actually twice because I left overnight and like I had to go back for my stuff and I went back a couple like years later. But like I can't go back to those places, which is weird.
It's weird and it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents it's weird. My mom sold their house. Like their whole plan was always going to be that my dad was going to retire in 2022. And wow. So like he missed it by, you know, several months, and my parents were always going to move. And, you know, for the longest time, I wanted her to keep the house. But then at the same time, it's like, no, there's too many things that are there, and driving by that driveway where it's like, no, we're not going to go. Did your dad pass
away at home?
Yeah, he was at home.
Okay.
That was the thing too, because after he had his biopsy, I don't know what took so long, but he was in the hospital 14 days or 24 days, some ungodly amount. And he was like, I will not go back to a hospital. Mm-hmm. No, he's like, I will be at home. And, you know, the whole time he's like so matter of fact with stuff. I remember my sister and we went up to his room after he was recovering, and he's like, God, he was so funny. He's like, very matter of fact, I have brain cancer. And he was just like, so matter of fact about it. He's like, so we're going to do what we can. And that's that. And then like, it was just, I think he tried his best just to like take the fear away from us by being so black and white and not afraid of what was going to happen. And like, he was still comforting like me and my sister through the end as he's like frail in his wheelchair and like patting my hand and getting me a box of Kleenex when I'm trying to say like, I can't keep doing overnights. Like my family is like, this is so much on me and my family. And my dad was like, you need to take care of yourself. You're dying of cancer and you're still able to say that.
Yeah.
You know, just like the parental love.
Did you ever have like a conversation of him, like, with him like before he passed away, but like when he was still coherent of like things that like you wanted to tell him?
Yeah, I did.
How was that?
It took me 3 trips back and forth, taking him to radiation before I got up the courage to, number one, I asked him if he was scared. And he's like, no, I'm not scared to die. I'm sad for what I will miss. And then the other one too is it's so crazy. Like you tell your parents, like you love them all the time, you know, like, and it took me so much to be able to say, I love you and I'm proud of you. And I'm scared for what's going to happen. And you know, he was laying back in the seat of my mom's car and we were driving. It's this weird juxtaposition where, you know, his life is leaving and there's life all around. Like the hills are green and rolling and it's summertime in the country. And, you know, he looked at me and he's like, it'll be okay. And then, you know, he went back to sleep. And so, yeah, it took a lot of courage, and it's weird to say that it took a lot of courage to ask those things and say those things. But I mean, I'm so glad I did, because the other thing too, he's like, Doug, I have no regrets. He's like, I lived a great life. He's like, I raised 2 wonderful kids. I've been with my wife like almost 40 years. We've traveled, we've experienced, he's like, I've lived a good life, which I love that. But then at the same time, it's like, but you are supposed to have so much left.
Yeah.
You know? So.
How did that make you feel hearing that? Because it's interesting that you say that your dad, I think our dads were very opposite, because my dad was always like, one day I'm going to do this. And like, one day I'm going to travel. One day I'm saving up for one day. It was like, he was living so far. He wasn't like ever in the present. He was always like, I'm going to do this one day. And I feel upset because he never got that one day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very opposite.
Super.
I think it made me feel relieved, that like he didn't have regrets, and, you know, he was happy with his life. Honestly, I still don't know how I feel about it.
Has it made you change the way that you feel like you want to live your life?
Absolutely.
How?
I try really hard to go with the flow, but I'm a very analytical. I like
Same.
Lists. Like, let me make a list and then cross off my list to make another. That's who I am. And I try really hard to be in the present with my kids and go on trips and travel and experience and try to find those moments of levity in everyday life. And I don't know.
That's okay. I feel like it's always still like a learning process.
It totally is.
I don't think you ever actually know. I know for me, I was always like super worried about the future, and I was just like, what am I going to do with my life? And like, I still do that all the time. Maybe not to like that extent, but I think I took maybe a little too literally of him, like the one day I'll do this, where like, I'm always like, oh, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm going to die one day, which is maybe not the best route to take. And I'm trying to hone it in a little bit, but I was like doing a lot of traveling, like, and I'm just bopping all over the place. I'm like, well, I'm going to die one day. Like, I should just do it. And then also the part of me was my grandparents kind of gut checked me. They're like, well, you have to have savings, and when you're going to get older, and then you like, you know, you need to do all these things. And like, what about like the rest of your life? And I'm like, well, I just want to get on an airplane and like, you know, so it's also a hard balance too. I feel like, to decide like what you actually like want to do.
Oh, it totally is. Yeah, it absolutely is. When I got here, and you know, I see the palm trees and I see the traffic and everything like that, it's like, let's just move. Let's just up and move and try something new. You know, just forget everything that we have.
Your wife's gonna call and be like, "You flew my husband to do a podcast, and now he wants to move to Miami. What?" It's not a bad place to live. I highly recommend it.
It is a really fine balance, though, of you want to live life and not take it too seriously, but you also can't be like, running around the world and going on trips and stuff like that too. Like, as much as I want to be able to do that, like we can't.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing, but we really try to travel with our kids, and because my parents did that too. And
do you take your kids back to the place that you and your dad went to in Colorado?
Yeah.
Oh, that must be so special.
Yeah. So my kids love Frisco. Like, they are outdoor kids. Mm-hmm. They will be outside all the time in the summer and the spring and the winter. Like, they're always outside. And they know that Colorado is a special place. It's special for them because, like, we've gone there several times as a family, but then also, like, the dad and grandpa went there too. Mm-hmm. And so they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing all your stuff. I feel like I really appreciate you being vulnerable and talking about your dad. It's nice to like see, I've gotten a lot of comments like that, like my face lights up when I talk about my dad. And I don't think I've talked to many children who have lost a parent that I can like see that in. And so like I see that in you, and it's really cool.
Well, thank you.
So it's nice. I'm so glad you could make it, and I'm so glad we got to talk on the podcast and share more of your story.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, this is awesome. So thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome. I'm so glad I was here.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Glioblastoma, aka GBM. To learn more about the Glioblastoma Research Organization, you can visit us online at gbmresearch.org, on Instagram or Facebook at Glioblastoma Research, on Twitter at glioblastoma.org, or on LinkedIn as Glioblastoma Research Organization. To start your own fundraiser, to donate, or to learn how to get more involved with the organization, please email us at contact@gbmresearch.org, and we'll see you on the next episode of Glioblastoma, aka GBM.